the letter to India and the conference on 15th May by Elton De Silva, the Global Director of ICOMB. I want to show you exactly some of it. Yeah. In this letter, he wrote that ICOMB recognizes that the recent elections were conducted in strict accordance with the Constitution and the bylaws of Mennonite Conference in India. This adherence to our established process demonstrates a commitment to integrity and transparency, qualities that are fundamental to our shared faith and mission. This statement is totally wrong. They have not conducted the elections according to the Constitution. I want to make it clear, the Constitution that Dr. Arnold tried to amend, it was a draft Constitution. It was not accepted by the government nor by the conference. These guys, I.P. Ashwad and Minojar and others, they tried to hide this fact from ICOMB, and they said that this is the original Constitution, but Mennonite Conference Constitution doesn't accept this kind of elections or the elections by consensus. The elections by consensus is against the law. It's against the Societies Act with which our conference is registered now. And also, he also wrote that I had the distinct privilege of visiting many of your churches and mission fields, and I am heartened by the widespread support and enthusiasm I witnessed for the newly elected governing council. This also is wrong. This is very absurd, because when we get visitors, when we have our brethren across the globe coming to our conference, being Indians as more hospitable and also being thankful for the conference that has done so much for our people here, we generally take people and we are generous in our hospitality. That doesn't mean that this conference is a reflection of the acceptance of this governing council. If ICOMB was sincere in its efforts, they would have come with the agenda. They would have sit together with the conference. They would have taken the opinion of the churches. Just visiting the churches, we have the minimum courtesy of taking care of our visitors and our guests. So that should not be construed as support for this governing council. This is totally misleading. And the final nail that I can say is, ICOMB does not endorse or recognize any other claims to the leadership of Mennonite Brotherhood Church in India. I think this is an audacious statement, and this offends us, and we don't accept this statement, because ICOMB has no judgment or capacity to think about or decide which committee is acceptable. We have to conduct our elections. We have to conduct the elections properly according to the law of the land, also by the Constitution of Mennonite Church. A group of theologians having some kind of influence over some pockets of this conference cannot sit together and form a committee and can claim that they have the acceptance of this conference. I wish ICOMB was more concerned and more practical about doing this. Now I would like to tell about the importance of this conference. If ICOMB came clear with this, they would have taken it in a more serious way. This we have released on the 600th day of prayer, that is on 7th March 2023. This is the hard facts of this conference. This conference is formed over 70 years of missionary work by more than 70 missionaries, and we have about 650 functional churches across 10 mission fields. As per the original constitution that is prevalent right now, that is acceptable by law now. There are over 450 acres of mission properties, which is worth about 2,500 crores. And if you convert that, it is nearly $3 billion. That is the worth of this conference. And the conference needs to have a proper administration and a proper regulation to make better use of these assets. If not, most of these 10-15 years, we are actively involved in protecting the properties, because the ministry has to be restored, and these properties can be utilized for this conference and for God's glory. proper utilization also needs proper discipline and accountability. And this present so far, and the committee that is projecting itself as the acceptable committee has no accountability, or the constitution that they are following, which is rejected by the government and also by the conference, has a clause which says that none of the employees of the conference can be a part of the governing council, because the segments, the boards, and the institutions of the conference should be accountable to somebody else. So the governing council, and the governing council has to be accountable to the CRC, that is called Committee for Reference and Council. I think as we go further, I'll explain everything, the structure that is there. It takes a couple of moments, but I would want you to have attention, please. And this is the reality is that the properties are at risk from Dr. Arnold and his family. They think this is a family asset, and they try to mortgage the properties, and they are trying to, even still now they have in a frame of mind as such that it is a family heirloom or something like that, which is not correct. And the administration is in total disorder, and there are self-centered and opportunistic leaders and elders in this conference who are more focused on their own priorities rather than the conference interests. Most of the central churches have no clear access or the vision with which our missionaries have formed so much of infrastructure, and the conference has so many fields and field churches. So we, the ad hoc committee, have formed this, and for the people who are not well acquainted with the conference and the structure, this is what I want to give you. This is basically a small unit of the conference. The conference comprises governing council, and also conference has a Memnad Brethren Property Association, that is the physical wing of this conference. Governing council will take care of the churches, institutions, and the spiritual activities. Both governing council and MBPA are to be run as for according to the constitution, and the doctrinal issues or the constitutional issues or the interpretation of the conference constitution, and also the discipline will be dealt by CRC, that is Committee for Reference and Council. Actually, Dr. Arnold tried to convince people, and she succeeded in convincing people that CRC comes under the governing council, which is not really so. CRC is a statutory body in the constitution, which is a standing committee and which has independent administration, so that any interpretation or any misuse of the authorities can be checked with the CRC. CRC is just like a judiciary in a bureaucracy, or like a election commission when it comes to conducting elections. And CRC is the platform which will scrutinize and which will validate the delegates from different fields. Right now, Mennonite Conference has 10 recognized fields. This is legal, and 10 recognized fields, and most of the recognized fields have central churches. Missionaries have set up mission compounds in all these 10 central church areas. And we have about 650 active satellite churches. You can say it is rural churches, and also the 10 mission compounds. As I said earlier, Kalvakurti and Shadnagar are sold out because there is no proper administration for mission compounds. The one more field, that is Yemignor, they have no mission compound as such. The only existing hospital at Kavaranpet is very much in a legal tussle, which I would want to explain later as we go across. And the schools and colleges are barely function, and then they are on the verge of being closed. And MBDO is the only active wing of the conference, which is a NGO, non-governmental organization, which is working against the social development, and it is the interface between the society and the conference. And the legally governing council exists as per the Societies Act. I would want to just highlight this. Governing council exists as per the Societies Act, and governing council is accountable to the Revenue Ministry of the Government of Telangana. Whereas MBPA will work according to the Companies Act, and which is under the purview of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs of the Government of India. So both to the state government and to the central government, the Mennonite Conference is accountable, and our elections, our constitution, the society, the operations, the way we have to file our performances, our papers, everything to the government, they are strictly should be complied with these two acts, Societies Act and Companies Act. And a perfect amalgamation of both these acts, the MBPA is attached to the Governing Council through Charitable and Religious Trust Act, that is a central government act, and with that both these acts are amalgamated so that the conference can make better use of the assets, at the same time can freely communicate and freely profess the main reason for which the conference is set up. So the gospel evangelism can be done properly when the conference has a proper structure. And this is the typical field and the structure. Mennonite Conference has 10 fields, and each field will have a field church, has a central church, and also satellite churches. So these satellite churches, they are all together, and these 10 fields come together and they form the Governing Council. This is the basic structure of this Governing Council, and this is the surface level I can give you. The Governing Council is here, MBPA will be there, and also CRC, both of them are on the same platter. CRC will definitely independently act, and the CRC will be like monitoring authority of MBPA and Governing Council. All the churches are dependent, and the churches are run according to the Governing Council and MBPA guidelines. The church administration, how it goes, will go further. This is the structure of the Governing Council. Right now, there are 10 fields. I can just name them, or you can go through this. Devarakunda, Shamshabad, Houston, Kalvakurti, Vanaparthi, Yammiganur, Mahbub Nagar, Maktal, Narayanpet, Gadwal, and Nagarkarnool. I have deliberately written Gadwal in a bigger size because Gadwal has a more number of churches, and that is divided into circuits. We have 3 circuits for Gadwal area, so that will have proper representation to the conference. So here I would like to point out that this Gadwal area is the core area that IV Ashirvadam and others are showing, except some segments of Gadwal. None of the conference accepts this kind of elections. None of the central churches or the fields they are accepting. And that is the reason they have not conducted elections properly, nor given any notice to anybody, any churches, or they have properly followed any procedures. This is against law. This is the structure of the Governing Council. Governing Council general body will be about 50 delegates. Each field will send 5 delegates. Out of that 5 people, 3 will be clergy and 2 will be laity. This is the original constitution with which our conference is formed. After this Governing Council, I'll show you about the conference of MBPA. In MBPA also, MBPA will be connected with Governing Council as per the Religious and Charitable Trust Act. And the Governing Council will be represented by the President, Secretary, and Treasurer. They will be among the board members of MBPA. And also, there will be 2 delegates from each field of the Mennonite Conference. Now, the tragedy is that IP Ashirvadam, Menojoy, and other guys, these people are trying to quote a constitution, which is Dr. Arnold. It's a draft constitution, and the Arnold, just to show that there is a lot of ministry going on to the international public. He has divided these 10 fields into almost like 4 times he divided, and now there are 34 to 37 fields as per that draft constitution. If that is the case, then MBPA will have too much of delegates, 2 delegates from each field. So actually the basic structure is like this. President, Secretary, and Treasurer of the Governing Council will be there, and also 2 delegates, property delegates from all the fields, all the 10 fields. So that comes to about 20 and 23. And apart from this, 2 delegates each will be chosen from the Board of Education, Board of Medicine, and also Board of Theology. So these there will be 6 delegates. So totally 29 people will be there in the Mennonite Conference Property Association. And out of these 29, there will be 3 members who will be office bearers of this MBPA. The three positions are President, Secretary, and Treasurer. Unfortunately, Dr. Arnold could successfully control this MBPA, and right now also MBPA has only 4 directors. Out of that, 3 of them belong to Dr. Arnold's family, and one is Mr. K.V. Purushottam. He is from Nagar community, and he also doesn't go against Arnold. So practically MBPA is totally out of bounds to the conference. So our concern is the ad hoc committee is more concerned about restoring the conference and the properties. For that, we need to have a properly elected governing council. Only then we can have this proper structure made. Without the proper governing council, we cannot reconstitute the MBPA. And without properly reconstituting MBPA, we cannot replace the names of Dr. Arnold or his family or any illegal person with the properly elected delegates or properly elected property delegates. So for this reason, governing council needs to be strengthened and formed properly and constitutionally and legally. So these things are taken easily by these theologians, and they have just irresponsibly tried to, I think cheating is the right word I can use. They have cheated the ICOMB or other guys with whatever the goodwill they have in all these 20, 30 years of service. This is a case study I would want to tell you. This is the medical center. This is about 57 acres of property. And this is functional since 1950s. The hospital is there, Dr. Friesen along with it. And my father happened to be working along with him. After that, Dr. Arnold was joined into this ministry. This medical center itself is value about $300 million. That is the value of this conference. So like this, we have more than 400 acres of properties. So to make use of these properties or better utilization, we need to have a proper administrative structure, without which it is not easy to handle these properties. With a lot of efforts, we have been trying to protect the properties for the past 15 years. And this is the medical center, is the case study I'm going to give you. These are the lines that you can see, I can show you. These are all the legal issues that are entangled for this medical center. Governing ad hoc committee, we have a strong hold on this medical center, and if God willing, and if everything goes well, we are trying to position ourselves in such a way that the government of India and the banks involved in this will be compelled to forfeit and waive the outstanding loan that Dr. Arnold has illegally taken and tried to siphon off that money into another family trust, in which he tried to shift out the loan. And he didn't repay the loan, and that's the reason medical center was put to public auction by the banks. This is Punjab National Bank, and the consortium of 3 banks are there. And also the medical center was purchased in public auction by one guy called Sai Reddy and 8 others. They have bid this conference for nearly 30 crores. That is about $1 million or something. And this medical center also has went through litigations by P.A. John. He is Dr. Arnold's cousin, and John Wesley, his brother-in-law, and also Dr. Anuradha and team. So this is the basic legal thing that is involved with medical center. And when we are properly fighting with this legal tussle, suddenly this governing council, whatever the IP Ashwad, they are trying to form this illegal committee and then come into this fray. And we are at a risk because the bidders, Sai Reddy and others, are the bankers and all. They will try to take advantage of the disturbance in administration of this conference. And this is one of the strong reasons why we are very serious about this illegally formed governing council, which I am calling fake GC by Ashirvadam, Minojoel, and some theologians who have little knowledge about the legalities, and they never come across or sit together and talk. We have given multiple times of invitation to them to sit together and restore the conference to its original administrative structure, so that we can have proper access with the government. Also, we can have a proper leverage about restructuring and making the conference more useful to the ministry. And one of the major flaw in this fake governing council by IP Ashwadam is uh, the illegal committee is violating the Section 8, Clause 4 of the Societies Act. This act, you can just go through that I have given, but I'll just tell you in a small, simplified way. Every constitution, as per the Societies Act, if the constitution has to be amended or altered or it has to be changed, it has to be changed as per Section 8 and Clause 4 of the Societies Act. And this is Section 8, Amendment of Memorandum of Bylaws, and this is the Clause 4. If any alteration of the memorandum is filed with the registrar, and if they are not contrary to the provisions of the Act, he shall register the same and shall certify the registration of such alteration under his hand and seal within 30 days from the date of receipt of resolution. The certificate shall be conclusive evidence that all the requirements of this Act are fulfilled. So this is it. So when Dr. Arnold tried to amend the Constitution in 2006, he did not follow this procedure, and there are many illegal clauses in that amended Constitution which Dr. Arnold framed to have total control. It is as if Putin, the way Putin or the North Korean Kim have constituted their constitution. So this constitution is absurd. Actually, this is not legally accepted. Even this constitution is violated by IP Ashwadam and other guys, and they are trying to project now as a valid constitution. So if ICOMB is practical, they would want to consult people, or they will want to consult the constitution which is in force. They just cannot go and just listen to whatever these theologians say and then take a conclusive decision. This is the major reason why Mr. Elton has to understand and not to issue such letters, which are unilateral and which are actually not acceptable. And for your information, this is the letter from the district registrar, the registration authority of the government for Telangana, in which our governing council is registered. And after we formed our ad hoc committee, this is the letter I have written as secretary to the government, seeking information about certain things. And this is the subject, this is item number 2, you can see. We have asked about the legally elected government. When was the last legally elected committee that was accepted by the government? So this is the answer they have given. And as per the office records as per our office records, the amendment of election body is recorded up to 2005 only. After that, concerned society's elected body is not taken on record. This is the response that is given by the government authorities. After 2005, no elected bodies, so this is recorded with the government because no proper elections were conducted from that time onwards. Even before that also, Arnold did not conduct, but we wanted 2005 to be the benchmark because after 2005, Dr. Arnold tried to alter the constitution, and after 2005 only, Dr. Arnold started misusing the properties on a larger scale. So after 2005, he tried to have his own family trust and again have a medical college which will be run by his own family, and for that he has to mortgage the properties, valuable properties of the conference, and till date we have been trying to protect those properties. And this is the constitution which I was talking about, illegal constitution followed by IP Ashwadam and others. See, can you see the date 2006? This is the constitution. This is a draft constitution actually. Dr. Arnold is projecting as if it is the accepted constitution. And the government authorities have clearly categorically stated that this is not accepted constitution. But even this constitution has violated, these guys have violated, IP Ashwadam and the theologians. If you observe this annexure 1, clause 2 of clause 2, this is unlawful. What IP Ashwadam and Menojal are trying to project is that they have been elected by this method. Consensus method of election violates Societies Act. I'm going to give you more information on this. This is the consensus method. This is direct violation of Societies Act. Actually, this is a hopeless method which Dr. Arnold tried to involve so that with this constitution, he could live all his life, and again after that, his children and grandchildren, they could take over this conference. This is the most heinous and most illegal constitution anybody can write, and this will be put in the trash bin by the government if this is properly placed before them. And even this was violated by IP Ashwadam team. That is the reason I am telling, I am requesting ICOMB or other guys who are trying to, who are mesmerized by the sweet talk by these people, but this is the crooked procedure they have followed. And this conference or any church, any central church or any field in this conference will not accept this kind of taking over of this administration of this conference. I said earlier, as I said, consensus method is illegal provision. IP Ashwadam and the team used to cheat ICOMB. I don't know how much time ICOMB has put over this administration or the affairs of this conference, but I think if you are responsible, you have got to understand, you have got to know the intricacies, the legalities. Already for 15 years, Dr. Arnold and Reverend Subnanam, they fought in the court of law. After 15 years, the court has declared that both the elections they conducted was illegal and improper. So at least we have the opportunity to properly conduct ourselves, and we can have a properly formed governing council so that we can make use of the last 40 years and we can take the conference forward. This is IP Ashwadam's fake governing council, which is claimed to have followed this clause. You can see how absurd it is. The quorum that the clause, anybody who can understand proper English will know. How can you interpret such a statement? This is Arnold's illegal draft constitution, which is rejected by the government. Elections to the Governing Council of Conference of Men Churches shall be held as far as possible on the consensus reached by the members. As far as possible. In the absence of consensus, members and officers may be elected either by show of hands or by secret ballot. Actually, this is the condition. If by show of hands and secret ballot, if everybody accepts the consensus method, then they can go for consensus. It is the other way around. You cannot have consensus. Who is going to substantiate whether there is consensus or not? Who is going to conduct? Who is going to communicate to the churches? They have not followed any of this. See, the quorum for this kind of gathering is a simple majority of members present, and voting shall constitute the quorum. There cannot be more absurd statement for a quorum in any literature in English or in any organization. And this is how they have written. There is no clarity. A simple majority of members present. Who are the members? Who are going to call them members? Where are they going to sit together? Where is the place? Where is the notice given? Who will be partakers of this? And voting shall constitute. Who is going to take care of the voting and who is going to report it? Nothing is there. This is the this is the horrible thing. And after this election, they have to obtain certificate within 30 days from the district register. Any election that is conducted, any election that goes off into the properly conducted elections, that will be submitted to the district registrar, and within 30 days, the district registrar has to certify that properly this is done, and they have to give their declaration that this is acceptable governing council. So without this, they have gone. Because they have not followed any procedures, they could not even put a paper before the government about the people who are elected, because we have already given objections to them. And moreover, when there is a case pending before the court of law on elections, it is illegal to conduct elections, actually. This is the reason why Governing Council ad hoc committee is formed. There is a difference between council and a committee. Governing Council means council is elected, a committee is constituted. And ad hoc committee is constituted according to the constitution with the permission of the registrar, and that is the reason we are only limiting our activities to protection of properties, and we are not interfering more into other administrative affairs of this conference. We are ensuring that all the churches are connected, and we are trying to restore the original constitution so that we can be effectively working all the churches. And this I am going to add as an attachment to ICOMB and also to all my international fraternity, Mennonite people. On 2023 itself, we have recognized that Mennonite Conference should be unified with the single vision and mission, one church, one spirit, one conference, and one constitution. This is the original constitution. which was constituted by the missionaries way back in 1958 after a period of about 18 months of exercise. My grandfather was one among the chief participants in this, so I'm well versed with the way the governing council is formed. These guys, the IP Ashwavadam or the theologians, Manoj, they never come across. When you give an invitation, they don't attend meetings. They have their own agenda. They want to push forward that agenda and they don't want to be accountable to the conference. And that is the reason they are trying to constitute such kind of illegal mechanism, which we will not be tolerating. And we in this, after that, we have conducted in-house meetings for the conference. 2 days, we have called all the churches, about 30 to 40 delegates came across. And this is the future structure we were proposing. And I think I'll give all the details further later on. This is going to take more time, but we are going to have a Mennonite central law board, because every Tom, Dick and Harry who has no legal knowledge are trying to talk about the constitutional issues. And that example is the theologians and the IP Ashwada manager. They just cannot sit for 15 minutes before the ad hoc committee to explain or justify what they have done. It was totally illegal. So we need the law and legal expertise has to be taken out. So we have a board of theology, we have a board of education, we have a board of medicine. Every department has its own expertise. So Mennonite conference has to be run as per the constitution, and for that also people having awareness of law should be there. So we are trying to set up a board so that there will be a proper legal activity that is taken up. If not, people are trying to file cases against one another, and the Mennonite conference is full of litigations. And that is the reason we want to avoid that. And one more segment is Mennonite Brethren MB Land. This is called Mennonite Brethren Land and Asset Management Board. We need to have a separate board to handle the assets of this conference, because all the churches or the ministry, people who are in the ministry, they cannot really take decisions on land administration, because there are a lot of legalities involved, and also a need to be a lot of spade work to be done. And we have to, there will be a lot of protective measures we have to take to safeguard and utilize the properties at the same time. And we are going to have MCA. This is Mennonite Brethren Mission Compound Administration. Because there is no proper mission compound administration, we have lost Kalvakurti and Shadnagar, both mission compounds. So all the mission compounds should have independent administration. Any violation of the mission compound properties or any disputes within the occupants of the mission compound, that has to be taken care by the respective mission compound boards, and they should report to the governing council. And this is how we can really protect and we can maintain the mission compounds, so that we can make proper utilization of the properties the mission compounds holds. And this is a Association of International Indian Mennonite Brethren. Most of the Mennonites who are benefited by the missionary movement for the past 100 years, almost every family has a relative abroad in US, Canada, Australia, or Europe, or some Gulf areas. So we would want to have a separate fellowship of all Mennonites across abroad, so that we can have a proper interaction with them. We can also share the burden and the ministry, and we can see that there is a proper connectivity of all Mennonites, especially who are of Indian origin all across the globe. And we also have constituted Mennonite Volunteers Network, because we have a huge network of churches, and all the churches we need to have a connectivity, so that there will be a proper volunteers and who can really serve in the conference in different areas. We were trying to have some proposals, but for that we need to have a strong governing council administration, for which ad hoc committee is trying hard to get legal sanctity. And we also have a digital communication network for MB conference, that is Suvartamani, which was there since long. And also we need to develop an app for networking interactive services of Mennonite conference, especially because we have more than 1 lakh membership, and there is hardly any scope of directly approaching the beneficiaries or the need people who are in need, especially the rural churches and the rural pastors and congregations. They have a least connectivity with the major churches, and the central churches who are affluent, who have a lot of revenues. I think Elton and you guys from abroad, you have seen how lavish the churches are, how rich the churches are, but they barely support the rural churches. and they support the churches which are convenient to them. And this is another loophole in this administration, because they try to manipulate the pastors and they try to be selective on those who are supporting them. And this is one of the reasons why some sections of these churches are supporting IP assurance, because some major churches are focusing and they are trying to pressurize the pastors to attend and support IP assurance. This is horrible, but I'm just telling you, MBDO is the only institution in our conference which is properly run. MBDO has all the scientific what you call certifications from the government. We have FCRA and also the Government Council 80G, where we can have tax exemption. So this is what is about MBDO. MBDO can be utilized for volunteers network also, and we can do a lot of work in the society as a bridge with the society and the church. This is my personal information. Anyone who wants to have connect with me, they can connect with me with my WhatsApp number, or you can email me gccmbca@gmail.com, or my phone number. And this is my mobile number as well as WhatsApp. You can just send a link to this number, and I'm available all across the globe. And I thank you for taking your time, and I want you to pray for our conference, and we will see that the conference is properly run for God's glory. Thank you. And for any information or any inquiries or any clarifications, you are free to call me. Thank you. May God bless us all, and let us work together for the glory of God. Thank you. This is Gandham Paul from Myanmar Conference in India.